And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. I called it Ironic Friday. I couldn't come up with a better name. I think it works though. Patagonia, it was sold to the planet, in case you did not see the video. I find it ironic. We're going to talk about that as well. Immigration busing in the United States. It's happening in DC, New York City, Chicago. I think there's a lot of ironies to it that we're going to discuss as well. And video game bans. Activision just banned almost 100,000 users playing video games. You can only imagine the reason for. I'm sure you could guess it. But I find some irony to that as well. So it's Ironic Friday. Mark, how are you feeling today?
Well, I hadn't thought about this before you just asked.
Yeah.
I feel better than the video game users.
Yes.
Here we are ready for another fall weekend. This is big. Penn State with a big game. The Cowboys hoping to score a touchdown, and the Orioles. That's why I broke it out. There's still a glimmer of hope. They need a big weekend. They got to at least win the series. So it's one of the fun things when my brother was in the big leagues. And we're flickering.
I'm not over here, but keep going.
Oh,
we're rolling over here.
All right, good. September baseball is great.
Yeah.
Because it matters so much, but so much of it gets lost under like cover of NFL college football darkness. But now we're both off. Are we still there?
I'm on over here.
All right, good. So anyway, big weekend for the Orioles, and lots of good football stuff going on. I got a wedding to go to. It's been a while since I've been to a wedding. It's been a while.
Yeah, I've had 3 so far this summer, and I have number 4 coming up in October. So it has been a long, COVID was a little bit of a break, but the last probably 7 or 8 years, the wedding stream has been steady.
It is fascinating to me too, as we get into this time of year and start to get some chill. Like when woke up this morning, got out of the house.
Awesome.
Was it awesome?
Awesome.
It was 50 some, and this is what I wore. I have my short sleeves on, and you're looking at it, you're like, let's get into 70 some. So there will be a time of day where this is fine, but right now it's a little brisk.
Yeah.
It always cracks me up how in the springtime, the first day that you can go out in a t-shirt, with no long sleeves, no sweatshirt, and it is warm enough. It is the greatest day on earth. When you get then 6 months later, the first time you have to put a hoodie on, it is so soft and fluffy and comfortable that the hoodie does not go on with like tears streaming down your face.
I call it screen door weather, and it is my favorite time of the year.
There is
screen door weather is where it's at.
There's a lot. As a kid, I remember when I was still in school, and one of my friend's older brothers, who was out of school and had a real job, told me that fall was his favorite time of the year because of football season, because of the weather. I was like, what's wrong? Fall's when you go back to school, and that sucks.
Sure.
As you get out of school, there's a lot of good parts to fall.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of good.
Well, speaking of fall, Patagonia, this is how I had to explain Patagonia to you because you were unaware of Patagonia. I said it's kind of like a fancier North Face,
I've heard of North Face,
outdoor brand.
Never heard of Patagonia.
Really good quality, on the expensive side for sure. But Patagonia was sold. There was a video done by the founder, and his name, I'm gonna butcher this. I heard it like 5 times yesterday, and it's YVON. So I'm gonna say Ivan.
YVON. Okay.
His last name is Chouinard. Chouinard.
Close.
So we'll go with that. But Ivan described his decision to give away the outdoor apparel maker as his last-ditch effort to do all he could do to protect the planet. There was a really nice video. There's slow motion. There's him kind of signing the papers. And then there's these pictures of like the sun rising over a beautiful landscape and all of these things. I think Patagonia means well. I think they're trying to do a lot of good things. Here is the irony to this decision. And I'm going to read it because I don't want to get the numbers wrong. They are essentially going to avoid $700 million in taxes if he would have sold the company instead of basically passing the shares off into a nonprofit or into a trust.
Okay.
So $700 million taxes basically eliminated on this sale that would typically go into.
Right.
There's no federal taxes. There's no income taxes. He does not even have to pay a gift tax on this. 98% of the shares are going to go into a nonprofit trust, and that will be used to basically benefit the planet. One of the things that they stipulated in that trust is that the money can be, there are no political disclusions within the trust, meaning the money can go towards political campaigns, it can go towards political donations, yada, yada, yada. So here is my ironic situation. I don't know how much of this was really to save the planet. I think it was meant well-spirited. I think the planet matters to the owner of Patagonia. I don't think you would spend your life devoting it to an outdoor brand that's all about promoting it without loving it. However, my question to you is, how is $700 million in taxes now erased better for society instead of this money going into a trust where I think a lot of it's going to end up going towards political donations and political campaigns?
Well, there's a couple angles to that.
Okay.
Number one, the part you said, we'll start at the end, it depends where the money goes.
Yes.
If it just goes to fund politicians who they think then are going to vote the proper way, then there is, although there is a value to that too, I guess.
Yeah.
It is, well, America doesn't care about who pays taxes.
I get it.
Trump didn't pay taxes. Nobody cared. The NFL doesn't pay taxes because somehow the NFL is a nonprofit organization that makes billions of dollars.
It was the first thing you said to me, and I was like, that's a fair point.
No one cares.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at the end of the day, I get it. I kind of appreciate the sentimentality. If that's the goal, now it depends how he goes about doing it. Yes. And I do understand if he's this super rich guy who's concerned about the environment, and this is where, and he basically found a way in he thinks now he's giving up a lot of it's going to a nonprofit shares.
98% of the shares, yeah. So this is not minor.
Yes. He basically found a way of saying, instead of giving $700 million to the government that they'll blow however they blow it, I'm going to take the $700 million and I'm going to direct it towards the environment.
Okay.
So I'm with you. Sounds good so far.
On
I guess
paper, it sounds amazing.
Depending on where that $700 million actually goes.
It's not even a fear. I think there's this idea of, when you brought up the NFL and these other things, I said, I think the reason it escapes by me is because they're not coming out and saying we're here to save the planet.
Right.
But when you make a video that basically says I am here to save it, this thing that we all live on, I am the one that is putting my foot forward and we are going to save it. At that point, I just have questions. Why does it matter that you can give this money away politically? Why was that so important that it had to be written into the trust? If half of it is spent on political campaigning and donation, because you and I already agree, the money that's spent on this stuff is absurd.
Absurd.
Like the Pennsylvania races this past year, the amount of money that was put into campaigning, that is just gone. Nobody benefited, nothing came of it. It is just gone forever. If half of this money, because I don't think it's going to be Johnny Appleseeds. I don't think they're just putting seeds in pouches and walking around the planet and planting stuff. I think more than this money than what people realize is going to end up in political campaigns and stuff like that. Now, you said if you're pro-green candidates and those people end up getting elected and they end up changing policy, then shame on me for ever questioning it. His mission in his mind was accomplished. I don't know. I would argue that in society, I hate how government spends money, but tax money comes from somewhere, and to just miss out on $700 million in taxes, and he's not the only one that's going to do it. I mean, other billionaires are going to look at this and go, oh, I'll just put it into a trust that supports X. It doesn't have to be the environment.
But then your kids can't I mean,
you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like,
no, I'm with you.
I think what he does here really matters from here out. Like, I think for most
Correct.
people, the big moment was this.
The
like,
interesting
the video and him putting it into the trust. But now I am way more interested in what happens now than him actually making the decision to do this.
And maybe this is just, nitpicky, but obviously he could have done this with no publicity.
None whatsoever.
If he really just cared about the planet doing the right thing, and he wants everyone to know that he is saving the planet. Because there's nothing of this that needed publicity unless he wants
other people to do the same.
Okay, that's true. I was going to say, unless there's still a financial benefit to the company that, like, oh, he wants me, instead of buying North Face, he wants me to buy Patagonia because now I'm supporting.
Yes.
So I guess there's that. But yeah, he could have done it privately.
I think it's way more two-sided than people realize. It's a really fascinating topic because I think for most people it's just like, oh, this guy sold his company and is supporting the planet. I think it's way deeper than that. I think it's going to tell us a lot about how other people decide to sell their billion-dollar companies. I think it's going to tell us a lot about, like, what does that mean for taxes? Like, if in the next 3 years, let's say like 75% of these companies, instead of being sold to another person, are put into trusts, and all of a sudden all that tax money is just gone. I mean, that's going to fall back on the individual taxpayer. It has to.
You would think.
So I don't know. I think the whole thing is way
No, I don't. I think we don't want to be too critical because sooner or later, when we sell our billion-dollar company, we don't want to be critiqued.
Do you think we need to win the Emmy before we sell it, or how does that work?
Yes, I think.
Yes, you think we need to win the Emmy first before we do it?
Yep.
Another one that I find a ton of ironies with, the immigration busting in America is like, I don't think immigration is something to laugh at. The drama that is incurring behind the immigration busting right now is very soap opera-ish. Like, it is very, just a ton of to just kind of shake your head at and just wonder what's going on. The gist of this is the 60-second gist. Governor Abbott, I know Florida just recently did it with DeSantis. They are busing immigrants to other parts of the country, typically cities, typically blue cities, and in political affiliation, DC, New York City, Chicago, etc. As they are busing these immigrants, they are pretty much doing it like, I think what Abbott's doing, like, he's not giving them a ton of heads up. He's not giving them a ton of notice. There is certainly some stuff that Abbott is doing here that is, like, very shameful, maybe is too strong of a word, but it's things that I would not have done. Let's put it that way. However, once these immigrants are arriving, the way that these cities, the mayors, the governors, and different people are handling it is really ironic. They have complained about not getting notice, which the irony of being a border state, I doubt you get notice when the immigrants come to the border.
Right.
There is an irony to a lot of these immigrants are no longer in the places they were dropped off at. So, for example, in Chicago, within a week, they were already bussed out of Chicago to other places in the state of Illinois. And these were not like set up like, hey, this is where you're going to live. They just simply got them out of the city to the next spot until they decide what to do with them. So the irony of these cities basically being like pro-immigrant, but then as soon as they're in the city, I mean, a week later, they're out of the city. I think there's a ton of irony there. Before I pass this off to you, I have said before, I always think the immigration and the border is a little overplayed. I think it's used politically a little too much. I thought the wall was an absurd idea. However, I have always sympathized with states that have to handle the immigration problem in the way that other states or the federal government at times tends to act as if it's over there and it's not necessarily something we need to deal with right away. And so the irony of all of this, of somebody just saying like, all right, then here, and to watch how these people have responded is very, very ironic.
Well, yes. And this is not new. I think I think we see it. I think we see it politically all the time. That people who the right who chastised Clinton for being a womanizer, and then when Trump's elected, no one cares.
Sure.
And then the same thing too with like that Biden was creepy, but Trump wasn't. And it goes, and the same people who criticize Trump for Stormy Daniels, and then you're like, you loved Clinton.
Sure.
And like, it was just, so there's so much of like our side and your side when they're looking, it's just like parents looking at their own kids and looking at someone else's kids.
Yes.
And if someone else's kid does that, he's a derelict. My kid does it, and it's okay.
Isn't there very much a like, well, it's a problem, just handle it. But it's just very easy to say that from the other side of the looking glass. And then when it's actually becomes your problem, there is a moment of kind of like, well, we weren't expecting this. And it's like, neither were we. Well, like, we can't keep them. And it's like, neither could we. There's a lot happening right now, and watching some of these people. Now, again, I don't think Abbott's being incredibly fair about it. Like I said, he's doing it mostly in blue cities. He's not giving them any heads up. Like,
well, he's just doing it to prove a point.
He is.
And he's making his point.
His point is, and so that was the other kind of part to this. The governor of Illinois has sent 75 National Guardsmen down to Texas to help with the border, with facilitating the buses and trying to set up like a system. And so the irony to that as well is part of the reason Texas is doing this is they felt like they were lacking federal government
support.
Nobody was helping. Nobody was doing anything. And then all of a sudden he does this, and less than 2 weeks later, he now has 75 National Guardsmen from another state. So it's this catch-22 of, I don't necessarily agree with the way Abbott went about it, but the results is kind of hard to argue with.
Well, one of the, yes, and historically, I mean, this has happened in so many places. I know one of in the Fair Housing Agreement, when they were ruling that you could not discriminate against people based on race in loans and things like that, because for a long time you could, and banks could do whatever they wanted, and even guys out of the military weren't treated the same way, whether they were black or white. They were treated differently. And so all these, especially in the North, and I don't mean North like during the Civil War, I mean North like during the 60s, that the North is like, yes, we should have fair housing, but then when it came to it, they only wanted fair housing in areas. Because even the senators and the lawmakers, I shouldn't just say senators, but there were a lot of people that are like, yes, blacks should have fair housing opportunities, but I don't want them in my neighborhood because it'll hurt my property value. So there was all kinds of hypocrisy with that of, yeah, they should have it, just not here. I remember learning this when I was in school they're like, the two are jails and landfills. Well, of course we need jails. Of course we need landfills. Just not by me. Put them over there by you. Put them in that town. Put them out. But I don't want them by me. So yes, that's a great American. It's probably just not even American. That's probably a human trait. I know we need it. You know, I know we need a junkyard. I just don't want to be near it.
That was a great example. The other part of this that is not ironic, this one's just kind of funny to me. We always talk about like the proverbial crap rolling downhill, essentially. There was a story in the Chicago Sun, and it was basically about how the Illinois lawmakers were upset at Texas for bringing the immigrants. So the governor was upset. The mayor was upset. Then the hotel that they were basically sent to was upset with the mayor and the governor because they were not informed that the immigrants were coming to their hotel. So they were not prepared to handle them. Then what happened is the employees got essentially mad at the manager of the hotel because they had to prep the rooms, extra work. Because this was, I believe it was over 30 families. Like if you went from a hotel that was half full, I mean, your hotel is now full. Like this was not. So it was just the spiral of watching people kind of pass the issue off to the next person. This is a perfect story of like literally the governor of Texas passing the buck to another governor, to a mayor of a city, to a hotel in that city, to the staff of the hotel. And you can just see it literally rolling downhill as it goes.
Well, and I think too, and this is a stretch, but for all of us that aren't border states to sit there and to tell Texas how they should handle their border and is very easy to do. It's like people that criticize the teacher, or people who criticize the coach, or people who criticize the boss, because every employee can always run the company better than the boss does.
Sure.
And every parent sitting in the crowd can coach better than the coach can, until you get in the position of authority and you realize that there are so many other elements to it, other than, as an employee, you're just thinking about yourself. Sure. As a parent, you're just thinking about your kid. And then once you realize all the other aspects to it, and you decide it's not that easy. And so it's easy for us to sit there and say, yeah, Texas, we can't just shoot them when they come across the border. That's terrible. We can't put them in cages because that's terrible. We can do all these things. But then you get down there and you're like, what should we do? Right. And you're like, I don't know. And well, we bust them to Chicago. We don't want them. Yeah. So now what do we?
Well, I mean, that's watching what these other states and cities do. And again, sounds weird to say this. It's early. Like, it's been less than 2 weeks. Like, I'm not implying that Chicago should have it solved. Like if Chicago could have solved it in 2 weeks, then we wouldn't have an issue because the other states would have already solved it. It's not. I'm not implying it's simple. I do wonder. I think this is what I would kind of wrap it all up with. Like I've said before, I thought the wall was a ridiculous prospect. Like, I really did. But I also, I always truly felt this way. I think it's really, really hard to come into our country legally. Like, what it takes to actually, the paperwork and go through the process and actually it's really difficult. I think we're also really bad at having a system in place to kind of handle it. So it's this double-edged sword of it's almost impossible to get in legally. There's a system that's really fraught in handling the people, the gate waiting to get in. And so because of that, it's just backed up. It becomes an impossible thing. And at one point, it just becomes easier to just step over it illegally. It just does. And so I think until you fix those two things, a fence, a gate, a wall, all of that stuff, I don't think that really matters until you actually have something in place that helps with the actual structure of getting into the country.
And you just imagine how bad things must be where they are to take the risks and to make the treks.
The Venezuela stuff, which most of I don't know how many exactly, but the thing I read on Chicago, wasn't the Chicago Sun, I want to make sure I say it correctly, the Center Square in Illinois, they essentially said that most of the buses from Venezuela, and if you know anything about Venezuela, basically they're in economic collapse and have been for quite a while now. I mean, it is, when you wake up in the morning, forget finding a job. Waking up in the morning is trying to find civility, trying to just get to a point in your day where you can maybe find a meal and do something. So it is, it's bad. They don't have anywhere to go, without a doubt.
The desperation that these people must feel to make the treks that they make is it's tough.
The last one I wanted to end with you today, the Activision ban. You probably,
now we get to the important
stuff. You probably don't care about this from the sense of video games, but I think you'll care about this because your son obviously enjoys video games. It becomes a part of your life whether you want it to be or not because you have a son. They are banning users for basically foul language, grotesque language. It is the first such ban of its kind, really. The one piece I read is they estimated almost 100,000 users have essentially been banned. Now, it's not a lifetime ban.
That was my first question.
No. So it's this 24-hour, 48-hour.
It's a suspension.
It's a suspension. But it is the first of its kind where it is the immediacy of it, right? Because there have been people that have been kicked off because they're part of a sleeper cell or they're trying to sell drugs over all these different stories you read about. But this is the first one of if you and I were playing a game and I said something grotesque to you, even though we're friends, we don't want to
fire something out.
Do we have the beep ready? I don't know if we have it ready. But if I threw something at you, depending on if it gets flagged or not, I could be banned for 24 hours, 48 hours. So it's the first true attempts to clean up the pleasantries and the politeness and the give and take of a video game platform. Thoughts?
It is interesting, and I know, as you use the word enjoy, my son enjoys video games.
Yes.
And I know, is this from Fortnite or is this from
So most of it is from
GTA?
So most of it is from COD, which is Call of Duty.
Call of Duty,
that's
okay.
probably the most popular like war battle
Yes.
game. And then there's another one called Warzone, which is kind of like a mix between COD and why can't I think of it? It was the biggest game ever, like the last 2 or 3 years. Fortnite. Thank you. It's kind of like more of a mix of it.
Well, okay. I know my son, as you say, we're involved in it.
Yeah.
Because if you're anywhere in the house, you can hear them yelling at each other. Why did you just shot me? Get out of my way! I'm like, you suck. Things like that. So yes, you know when they're playing, and you know when things aren't going well.
Yes.
It is interesting. I'm trying to think of why this happened. If there are, I mean, there's little kids playing these games.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's why you get second graders and third graders and fourth graders. And I know my Fortnite, their team of 4. Is that, do you play Fortnite?
I do not play Fortnite.
Okay.
I played once. I could play Call of Duty with my eyes closed. I have never played Fortnite.
Okay. Well, I think on Fortnite, well, I don't know, but there was a team of 4. And I assume that's what your team is. Because there were 3 kids in high school, and then this other kid who was in 2nd or 3rd grade.
Okay.
And I was like, how did you get him? And they're like, we were at the basketball game and his brother didn't want to play. And he's like, I'll play. And they're like, well, when we get home, we're playing. So it was literally like 16, 15, and 8.
Yeah.
And apparently he was really good. But so I can understand why that you don't want these kids hearing the things that it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yes.
Does Activision soften it?
Yeah.
Or do people are like, I just can't say, they're going to figure out quickly what they can say and what they can't say.
Yes. There's 2 parts to this. The second part is there was 5 times as many players that were banned due to cheating. So they're also cracking down on cheating within the game. Activision added its Ricochet anti-cheat system at the end of 2021. Despite numerous attempts to build upon and improve Ricochet, reports of cheating are surging. Some players fear are even worse for the new Call of Duty, which is about to come out. So almost 500,000.
How do you cheat?
Toxic players. You know what? It's a good question. I don't know. I've seen people, this is wild. So I have seen people, they will take a kind of like a little target and they will put it on the television screen. And so now you don't even have to pull up your scope. You can just shoot from the hip, and it's, because it's faster than having to actually. So they'll actually figure out when I shoot, where does it go on the screen? And now you can just run around and just try to put people. Yes. But I find it hard to believe that they would be able to tell that that's what people are doing. Maybe. I don't know. So no, I don't know what the exact, but so 100,000 for language. 500,000 for toxic players. Here's the final point that I want to make to you, and this is the part that I find really fascinating. Any other subscription-based service, this would be suicide. So, for example, if you went to Netflix and you said to them, hey, these 600,000 users, there's a problem. They're either doing this illegally or whatever. We have to ban them. Netflix would escort you from the room and say, please never come back. If you went to Amazon and you said, hey, 600,000 Prime orders are doing whatever, like Jeff Bezos would laugh you out of the room and say, is it weird that of all things, video games are the moral high ground of subscription use? That was the part to me that was really, really
well, they've obviously studied it to the point of, and they did it short enough that they're like, we know these kids are addicted.
Okay.
We know we don't have a lot of competition, and we don't want the younger audience. There must have been complaints over and over and over from parents, who were saying things along the lines.
So you think they'll gain users out of
I think-
respectability of whether it's guardians or parents feeling safer about what.
I think they're trying to
doing.
protect their future.
Oh, maybe.
And knowing that, because, okay, say, well, first, there's 2 parts. They're trying to protect their future, and they don't want to lose. And they know they're not really going to lose these guys. 24 hours, they've learned their lesson. Now they're back, and they need to play more than they need to swear.
Okay.
Because, and this would be my thought just in the last 45 seconds, they're afraid that if there are too many of these, they want the 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds playing their game.
Sure.
And if another company comes up and is like vocally PG-13, and the kids get used to playing that game, then, you know, then they're like, well, they played that 7, 8, 9, and we've just created a competitor for ourselves.
No, that's true. Last question about this. Cheating. Like just the general topic of cheating. If you went across every playground in America, how many kids do you think are cheating at basketball right now? Like when you play touch football, how many kids do you think are like, he didn't tag me, and just keep running?
Well, there's lots of those, but not.
Okay, but this is the point I'm saying. 500,000 is a massive amount of people cheating on a video game platform. Like I would have, if you said to me, Jeff, how many people do you think are legitimately cheating at Call of Duty? 10, 20, 25,000?
Well,
like,
I don't know how.
This is 20 times higher than any number I would have guessed for cheating.
Yeah. But like if you do this for hours and hours,
you'll do whatever it's.
Why not? It's the next.
Okay, because it's a video game. Do you think that there are people that feel like they're not cheating because
it's just the game anyway?
It's a software, and if I find a way to beat the software, I'm winning.
It's the Mario Kart shortcuts.
A little bit. But see, like, do people consider the Mario Kart shortcuts cheating? I don't know if they do. If I was playing Mario Kart...
But they weren't designed... They didn't... I don't think the game designers knew it until someone figured them out. That's my guess. Maybe they did. Maybe they did.
I would think, like, if you got... I guess this is a point I'm making. If you're playing touch football and there's 16 kids... I would say there's always going to be 1 or 2 kids that are going to try to say they didn't get tagged when they know that they got tagged. Fair?
Okay.
So that's 1 out of 16. I mean, this is like, this would be like 1 out of every 5 players, I guess, are essentially like.
But the difference is, if you're playing pickup basketball or you're playing, you know, if you're playing pickup basketball and a guy complains that he gets fouled every time he goes to the hoop. His buddies are right there telling him, stop crying, you're a liar, you're a baby.
Okay.
And there's the immediate pushback.
Okay.
If you're cheating at Call of Duty and you're sitting in the comfort of your own home and the other people can't tell you're cheating, then it's easier to get away with, I guess.
No, that's fair.
And there's less public ridicule, and you don't want to go... Maybe if you're playing pickup basketball game in a park and you don't know anyone,
right? It's
different. But you don't want to go to school and be this person who's always the one, because then you don't get invited anymore. They're telling the girls at school that he whines about every call. Like when you were in school and they told the girls you whined about every call because that's all you did.
Yes. Last question for you. Am I a hypocrite for saying
yes
that video game, that like Activision, to me, Activision, somehow this is like the highest moral ground of a subscription company I've seen in a long time. However, when like Twitter bans somebody, I'm like, there goes the freedom of speech. Like, there goes, like, is there a little bit of a hypocrisy there?
I don't think it's about, I don't think it's moral high ground. I think it's protecting their company. And
you think for the company to survive, it's important that the players know the game is fair and that people are not rigging the system.
Yes.
Okay.
And that young players aren't not allowed to play because their parents are like, I'm not listening to a guy
berate them.
Yes, verbally berate them with sexual.
That might be 20, 30, 40 years old.
Speaking of cheating.
Go ahead.
We won't go into this in detail. We talked about the chess cheating the other day on the show.
Yes.
Did we talk about it on the show or did we talk about it off
Which
the show?
part?
The chess cheater that won.
I brought it to you.
On the show?
No. So I brought it to you off the show.
Okay.
And then I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit. You brought it to me yesterday as if it was this great brand new.
No, I remember having talked about it.
All right.
I couldn't remember who I talked to it with. I can't. Now I don't even remember if we talked about it on the show.
No,
but just Google it. Some guy. I don't even.
He's like a 19-year-old American. Is the kid who beat the world champion.
And they basically said going into it, he had no chance to win. He was the biggest long shot. I'll just tease it with this. A sex toy was one of the theories of how he was cheating.
Yes.
So Google that.
Yes.
Cheating, chess. Yes. That's all you need, and it will show up.
Yes.
And
can I add to your story?
Sure.
This is not just the loser arguing he cheated.
Yes, this is everybody.
There is a collective group of chess what are they, grandmasters?
Grandmasters.
There is a collective group of grandmasters who are all in agreement that this 19-year-old kid cheated to beat the best chess player in the world. And it is high drama. It is
in the chess world, baby.
Yes.
This is it. But at the there's no way he won. And then they're all there you go.
And I obviously we're giving the story away a little bit. However, what makes it even deeper is when he was 12.
Nice pun.
When he was 11 or 12, he was actually booted from a national tournament online.
He was caught cheating in
chess.com caught him cheating.
Yeah.
So you twirl all of that into, see what I did? That was another pun for you. I didn't know if you got it or not. So you twirl all of that into it as well. And it's a really fascinating story.
He's had some good quotes. He's a little Lance Armstrongish right now.
Okay.
That he is denying with vigor.
Yes.
And one of his statements was, if you want me to, I'll play naked.
Yes.
And because of the accusation, he might even be able to play naked and still cheat.
And we should also add, he himself is a grandmaster.
Yeah.
So this is not like he was a huge underdog, but based off of the levels of chess, he was capable of doing what he did. Maybe once out of 50, but he was capable of doing it. He just happened to do it, and now the debate comes, was it for real or not?
Right. He was a big league hitter. He made it to the big leagues.
Yes.
But now that he's hitting all these home runs, is that corked? Is he stealing signs? So there you go.
Really, really.
It is. But it's when you're bored this weekend, just remember chess cheating. Google it.
It's pretty good.
You will be proud of the lengths people go to win.
That was good. We have to go because we have a 1:00 meeting. That was one of my favorite shows we've ever done. Thank you.
Really?
Ironic Friday was a success.
Really?
It was. I enjoyed that. With you.
Penn State tomorrow, 3:30. Auburn is undefeated, but they haven't played anyone. Auburn beat San Jose State by 8.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a 3:30 game. And there's a Pitt still ranked. They're at night against somebody. Isn't there a super, or is there nobody this weekend? I just looked at the schedule. The Steelers are going without TJ Watt for a little while. And the Eagles, I don't remember who the Eagles play. The Cowboys are going to lose.
Yeah.
I thought there was a good college football game on. Oh, UConn. What's his name go to UConn?
Jimmy Webb, or I'm sorry, Hunter Webb.
Hunter Webb. They're at Michigan.
Oh, that's good.
How's that? ABC game.
There you go.
So Loyal Sock Kid that would be cool. Even if they're going to lose by 60, he's playing in the big house on Sunday.
Really,
that is cool. I thought there was a good game, and maybe it was the Penn State one. There's not a whole lot. No, there's nothing. So Penn State. Oh, Texas A&M is still ranked. That's what I want to talk about. Texas A&M, after they lost to App State, still ranked.
Yeah.
Where's App State? Why aren't they ranked?
It's a good question.
It's a very good question.
They're game day this week. I don't know if you saw that.
I heard Herb Street talking about it last night. Did you watch it on Prime at all? Kirk Herbstreit did the NFL game last night on Amazon Prime.
I didn't watch. I heard the game was wild last night. I heard it was a really good game.
What's his name threw a 99-yard interception for a touchdown, and it was tied. Yeah, it was tied in I want to say either late or maybe early fourth quarter, and it's whatever in goal at the 1, and they're just mowing them. And here you're like, oh, San Diego's going to go. It's not San Diego anymore. The Chargers are going to go up on the road. And he throws it. Some 7th-round draft pick rookie steps in front. And here's the crazy thing. You know what they're talking about in film session today?
What?
Well, they're not watching film today. You know what they're talking about in film session tomorrow for the Chargers? The guy, he runs a stop right at the goal line. The D-back jumps in front of him, catches it, and goes. And you can see in the film, if you want to look this up, the guy dropped his mouthpiece. So on interception, while everyone's going the other way, the receiver bends down to pick up his mouthpiece and doesn't chase him.
Wow.
He is going to be talked to a little bit.
I would imagine.
And the linemen are not happy with him.
I would assume.
So, yes. And you can see, guys, and right when he caught it, you kind of thought, oh, my gosh, he might be gone.
Yeah.
And the receiver just bends down, picks up his mouthpiece. I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to chase him. So, anyway.
That was good. We'll sign off with this. Go for it.
Oh, thank you, Blaze Alexander, family dealerships who are all over the area. And when you've not just for car sales and for your maintenance and the garage work and all that stuff, but they do so much philanthropic stuff throughout the community. When they do Raise the Region, they're the biggest the biggest sponsor, and you find lots of little local community things where they have all these lists, and there's the Alexander family dealership of that area. Yeah. So. They do a lot for the community. We thank them for what they do here for NorthcentralPa.com.
I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. We will see you next week.